This is Mr. Martin. He is about to cause an accident.
Gentlemen, as you know, under New Zealand law, it has always been illegal to drive a motor vehicle under the influence of drink or of drugs. A new law, however, states that it is also illegal to drive a motor vehicle if any driver has more than 100 milligrams of alcohol in 100 millilitres of his blood. Now, it's our job and it's your job to enforce these laws for the protection of all those who use the roads. One other point I'd make before I hand you over to your instructors. The new law does not allow you to conduct random checks on drivers. You can only stop a driver for a breath test if he clearly draws attention to himself by his driving, and it is likely that he is over the limit.
The level of alcohol in the bloodstream can be determined by two methods, a breath test and a direct blood test. Now, as liquor is drunk, it is absorbed from the stomach and small intestine into the blood vessels which surround them. Now, this absorption rate depends upon what food is in the stomach, because food will slow down this absorption quite a lot. Now, because the blood circulates quite rapidly, it doesn't take long to reach the brain. Obviously, the more alcohol there is in the blood, the more affected the brain will become. Now, what we are concerned with, therefore, is this level of alcohol in the blood. The alcohol in the blood vessels about the lungs will pass into the air in the lungs alcohol vapor from these blood vessels. Now, we can measure this air and so determine the alcohol in the blood by passing a measured quantity of the air through a tube containing crystals of potassium dichromate. Now, we can take it that if this tube then gives a reading of less than 80 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood, then the more accurate blood test is highly unlikely to give a reading of more than 100. Now, alcohol in the mouth will affect this reading, and therefore any driver who gives a positive breath test is asked to give a second breath test 20 minutes later, after you've taken him to the police station. Now, only if the results of both breath tests are positive, or if he refuses to cooperate, do we then ask a doctor to take a blood test. This blood sample is then sent to us at the DSIR for accurate analysis.
Now, let us have a look at what alcohol does when it dampens down and depresses the brain's normal functions. If you pause to consider the detailed coordination between brain, nerve, and muscle function necessary to drive safely, you'll realize how dangerous it is to drive if any of these functions are limited by alcohol. Consider its effect on vision. Even at low alcohol concentrations, eyesight is affected and overall blurring results. Also important is its effect on our ability to coordinate the images seen by our two eyes. This allows us to judge distance from an object. Alcohol then adversely affects our ability to see clearly and our judgment of distance. In all driving manoeuvres, the coordination of our hands and feet plays a major part as they respond to messages from the brain sent to adjust movements. Alcohol also delays the time that our brain and nerves takes to react. Movements which would usually be simple may become clumsy and slowed. This is particularly likely to happen in an emergency situation. This problem of judgment, it's in this sphere that alcohol has an effect that is so dangerous because the driver is quite unaware that he is affected. At all times when we drive, our brain receives messages that allows us to judge the speed of our vehicle and others, to judge our capacity to brake and stop, to judge our ability to turn without collision, and to judge the many other actions that are essential in driving. Normally, we control the power of the vehicle we handle and use self-control to avoid unnecessary risks. Under the effects of alcohol, this control may be lost and we may become overconfident. All these effects add up to reducing our skill as drivers. And because of its effect on brain function, alcohol is an extremely important factor in road accidents today. I stress that I'm not talking about the drunken driver, but about the person whose skill and ability to drive safely has been adversely affected by alcohol. Now let's have a look at these effects on a driver. Mr. Martin is normally a responsible man who drinks little. He looks responsible now, but he has had several drinks. He's not staggering, his speech is not slurred, but he is affected by alcohol and he's going to have an accident. Why? First, his few drinks have made him overconfident. Because of this, and because his judgment is affected, he's going faster than he should. His eyesight is also affected. He hasn't noticed that child as quickly as he normally would. His reactions are also affected. It's taken him longer to realize that he will have to brake to avoid her. Consequently, he's applied the brakes much later than he should have. Finally, his basic driving skill is affected. Normally, he might still have managed to avoid her. Now he can't.
Mr. Martin looked sober, but there was enough alcohol in his blood to cause this accident. The child he hit is not seriously injured, but she could have been killed.